I also think we need to understand what is normal. If I have a calling in life, it's to run around and to convince people that they're normal, because most of us don't think we are. Most of us think we have things, we have thoughts, we have feelings inside of us that don't happen to anybody else, or that if somebody could really get inside of our head, they probably would think we were needing to go to the funny farm because we're absolutely crazy. But the truth of the matter is, we're all about alike. And there's some things in grief that we need to understand as normal. First, we need to understand the physical reaction as a normal thing. When waves come in grief, and they do, our body secretes cortisol, which causes our mind to whirl like a gerbil in a cage, and so it's very difficult to concentrate or to think, and it dehydrates us, so we need to drink more water, and it saps our energy. People in grief have a hard time understanding why they're so tired. You know, it affects our sleep, it affects our appetite, and we need to understand that those kinds of things do not mean that somehow or other you've lost it. It just means that that's what's happening, and we secrete that, and gradually it bleeds off, and then another wave comes, and it comes again, and that's why the process needs to continue, the process of talking, the process of expressing our feelings, and not panicking when we're tired or can't get as much done or we don't feel like working anymore. We need to understand depression. There's a form of depression in grief that doesn't exemplify itself just in feeling blue. It exemplifies itself in no feelings. We feel detached, separated, like we're just out here watching ourselves go through motions, and we don't understand why we're so emotionally flat. Now, all of us have days, normal days, when we have that detachment or that feeling of detachment, but in grief that becomes a fairly regular or long-term thing, which says that's the depression that follows grief. A woman called my office one day and talked to the secretary there and kept saying, "I just don't want to go on, I don't want to go on." And I happened to be going to the state where the lady lived, and so my secretary said, invited the woman and her husband to come and have dinner with me, and they did. And the woman just kept saying, "I just don't want to go on." And of course my first reaction was to say, "Are you saying that you want to take your life?" "Oh," she said, "no, I would never do that, ever. But I just don't want to go on." And her husband then began to tell her, he said, "You know, you've got all these reasons to go on. You still have me. We still have a child." You know, and she stopped and looked at him and said, I know that. And I know I'm going to go on. But I want to. I don't want to. That feeling of detachment. And that's very difficult, because so much of what we do is based in some kind of feelings. You know, I actually had a lady in New York recently say the numbness was to her probably the hardest part of the grieving. It's kind of a contradiction. You hurt like everything, and yet you're numb. And that numbness, that feeling of detachment, can affect almost everything we do. How we feel about our jobs, how we feel about our families. You know, you want to love them, but the feelings aren't there, and they're not the same, and so you begin to worry, and you begin to fight yourself trying to cause it to happen. It can have an impact on our religion or our faith. Many people tell me that during the grieving experience, their faith becomes even more real and more precious. But there's also many people who say that during the grieving experience, they wondered what happened to their faith. They find it hard to be in church, and hard to pray, and hard to sing the songs. They wonder where God is. See, that detachment makes it almost impossible to feel the same thing they felt. And so much of our faith has feeling in it. So yeah, it doesn't feel the same. And when we go to church, you know, when you're hurting, the only thing that matters is the pain. Nothing else matters. Everything else becomes superfluous. Everything else becomes small talk. People in grief have a hard time with small talk because we're so dominated with this need and with pain that it just becomes almost something we cannot tolerate. And church even can become that during this period of time. And we can almost feel lost and feel like that we've lost whatever faith we had. I was able to say to the lady who said she didn't want to go on that the feelings would return. It takes time, it's very slow, but the day will come when you will love again and feel it. The day will come when you will enjoy doing housework because it's an act of love again. And the day will come when you want to go on. The want to will come back. I said, you have to understand two other things. Number one, it will return a lot quicker if you don't fight yourself. If you don't expend so much energy every day saying, I should feel different, I should. Basically, you're just burning up energy that is not doing any good. And the third thing I said was that until it returns, it's just a process of putting one foot in front of the other. I wish it wasn't. I wish we could feel a bit different. I wish it could be better. But basically, until it comes back, you just have to struggle through and live without the feelings. And that's not easy, but that's what normal is.